Welcome, everyone, to Living in a Post-COVID World. Remote workers are here to stay. Today's presenters are Mike Hoskin from Denovo. Mike has been in the JDE and Oracle ERP space for the past 20 years in both consulting and sales. Prior to that, he had several manufacturing and engineering roles for companies such as Tandy and GE. We also have Peter Lopes from Canon. Peter is the Eastern Region Account Executive for Canon based in Massachusetts. He joined the Canon team 9 years ago and has a background in Oracle technology and ERP systems. Mike and Peter, take it away.
Good morning. Denovo and Canon are partnering together to help your growing organization transform their AP department into a lean business unit. AP processes are transforming paper-based to digital with the help of automation, imaging, and related technologies, which are highly integrated with your JD Edwards E1 systems. With numerous solutions and approaches to automating AP, how you unlock the most value for your organization and users. In this webinar, we're going to discuss the impact here to stay. So Pete, what are you guys seeing in Canon with the new post-COVID world? You think remote is here to stay?
Yeah, I'm thinking that remote is here to stay, Mike. And interestingly enough, Canon, we've been recently working with the Institute of Financial Management, that's IOFM, who have been surveying their member practitioners about the new normal and its risks and challenges. And what they've discovered in this survey is the following. I don't think that's the right slide, but there we go. Thank you very much. So where is your AP team working today? They've received the following answers. As you can see on the slide here, 83% of all surveyed members said that their AP team is working mostly remotely or completely remotely. Only 8% said that their team was 100% in the office. Now, these numbers are changing rapidly, of course, as things go forward, people get immunized, etc. As the COVID restrictions are gradually being lifted and companies are starting to open up, employees coming on site to work. However, remote working is here to stay, as I mentioned. Many organizations going forward, either for the entire AP team or for some portion of them. So they may be partially in the office or in some cases all in the office.
When you're talking so I was going to say, when you're talking to your customers in terms of working in a remote environment, what's the split in terms of how many people are actually fully remote or partially remote? And talk about some of the challenges that your customers have shared with you.
Yeah, certainly. As you can see in this slide, since the remote working is still with us and will continue to be with us for some time now going forward, organizations are looking at the operational challenges and risks that result from the type of work situation. When IOFM asked their member in their survey about these challenges and risks, they heard the following. 19% of organizations are concerned about the risk inherent in the current invoice process, and 7% of AP managers have become overwhelmed, no clue, by the risk of the current AP processes. The reasons behind these concerns are the remote working has caused an uptick in fraud and compliance issues. They are missing invoices due to dates and therefore are seeing a spike in the suppliers calling or emailing inquiries about whether their invoices are going to be paid and when. There's been a sudden shift to working challenges, and the sudden shift to working has disrupted the way that the AP departments operate today. As you can see in the slide here, 47% of AP leaders say that invoice receipt and data capture is their department's biggest challenge as work staff is remote. It is hard to adapt paper-based processes to remote working. 34% of AP leaders say that exception resolution is more challenging these days. In a similar view, 24% of AP leaders say that approval routing is a challenge. Tracking down approvers and getting invoices to them is harder than when the staff is working remotely. And 17% of AP leaders say that ensuring segregation of duties is their biggest remote working challenge. This speaks to the number of organizations that are using emails to route invoices today.
You know, one of the things you see in a remote environment with system challenges is people use workarounds. Have you guys seen that in the world of AP, workarounds?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of workarounds, many different types. They've created workarounds to try and address the challenges that are created by working in that remote environment. But these workarounds may be creating more issues than they solve, excuse me, particularly when it comes to control and visibility. Workarounds such as routing invoices via email is a major problem. As you can see in the slide, they are not secure. Emails are not secure. They do not ensure segregation of duties. They do not provide chain of custody assurance. They do not track actions taken on an invoice. And they do not provide ready access to audit information, nor do they stop documents from being deleted before their time. It is for these reasons that automation is a top priority of many accounts payable departments. Efficiency and productivity will be top of mind going forward for accounts payable leaders.
Okay, Pete, we spent a few minutes talking about the world of the post-COVID world of remote workers and some of the challenges they've seen. You just shared with us that some of the manual workarounds aren't working. Can we shift gears now and talk about specifically how does Canon and the solutions that you guys come to market with for Oracle ERP users such as JD Edwards? Talk about your solution for a minute, Pete.
Always happy to talk about the Canon solution, right? This slide is a graphic of our automation process provided by the Canon AP automation solution that's integrated with many Oracle solutions, specifically JD Edwards Enterprise One. If we start at the left side of this slide, you'll see that the invoices come in, and they come in either via paper or they come in by email. If they come in by paper, somebody has to open that envelope, they have to scan it into make an electronic form, and then process the invoice. If it comes in by email, Canon has a solution. That's part of its solution. We monitor an email box or multiple email boxes. When an email comes in with an invoice attached, we'll automatically grab it, extract the invoice from that email, and start the process. So we automatically capture the invoice, and we also extract the data automatically. We use intelligent capture for that process of capturing the data. Our OCR, or optical character recognition capability, is #1 in the world. It has the ability to extract the data from an invoice. It does not have to be template based, so it's really free form. So wherever the information resides on an invoice, and typically every supplier has their own format for their invoice, we can find that information, such as supplier name, the invoice number, PO number, etc. So the ability to find that information without having to have a template for every supplier is a very big plus for an OCR capture. The next step is the validation in the workflow. Sorry about that. It's allergy season around here. The system takes the information that's been extracted from the invoice, and it validates that against your master data in JD Edwards. So it's looking at the JD Edwards master data, such as the supplier file, the open PO file, etc., and it's matching that information to the invoice that was sent. If it doesn't get a match, it goes to an exception queue where someone can review it and identify what the problem is and correct it and continue it on its way. If it does match up properly, it then will go through, if it's a non-PO based invoice, it'll go through a standard workflow or multiple workflows that your organization has determined based upon the type of invoice that it might be. It goes through a step-by-step process through the workflow, which allows you to be able to track that invoice throughout the entire process. If it's a PO-based invoice, it typically, once you have a validated PO-based invoice, because typically a PO is based upon a GL code already assigned to it, it would just go through and automatically generate the the voucher in JD Edwards at that point in time. And that's the next step here, create the voucher. What happens now is no longer does anybody have to manually enter that information into JD Edwards. What happens is that the system will automatically generate the voucher within JD Edwards, and at the same time, it will attach a link to a copy of the invoice, which is stored in our content repository, which is part of the solution. So right from JD Edwards, from the accounts payable voucher area, an individual can click on that link and see the image of that invoice without having to get out of the system and go sign into another system, perhaps a document management system or what have you. We store that information, like I said, into our content repository, which provides the capability to provide audits as well as reporting of all the different types of data that you may want to look at in any form that you may want to look at it. And then we provide also analytics for the entire process. So at any point in time, you may be able to look and see how many invoices are in process, what's their value, what suppliers' invoices are there and their value, where is the bottlenecks? Is somebody sitting on an invoice they haven't reviewed and approved yet? That type of information is available in a highly graphical analytic tool that we provide as part of the solution. Next slide. So the Canon solution, the Accounts Payable Automation solution, provides organizations with a state-of-the-art optical character recognition, as I mentioned earlier. It leverages artificial intelligence and machine learning. It does not require the creation of supplier templates and with a very high degree of proven accuracy. The solution also provides organizations with not only a state-of-the-art integration to the JD Edwards Enterprise One system, but also a highly robust workflow engine that can accommodate literally any complex workflow you may have in your organization, multiple levels, multiple values, etc. And yet provides standardization for the entire organization. So everybody now has a standard process for processing their invoices and reviewing and approving. The workflows would provide visibility into the real-time status of any invoice and allowing invoices to be reviewed and approved on any mobile device, no matter where you are in the world. All invoices now in electronic format are now stored in the Canon Central Repository or Content Repository. This is part of the solution that can be accessed directly from the JD Edwards solution or directly into the Canon, into the Content Repository without going through JD Edwards. It's your choice. You do not have to log into a separate document management system to view an image of the invoice. And this saves immense time and provides numerous reporting functions against the database. Excuse me. Next slide, please.
So Pete, I mean, for Denovo customers, when they talk to us about migrating JD Edwards or providing service to them or doing a managed services program, before we start, we typically have some goals for our projects. Talk about some of the goals your customers have before embarking upon an AP automation project with you guys.
Yeah, good question, Mike, because we see that all the time. Every organization has their own specific goals, of course, but they typically fall into these particular buckets here that you see on the slide. First of all, most organizations want to have a standardized AP process across the entire company. This is especially important when you have multiple locations for your organization. They could be locations in the US, or Canada, or across the world for that matter. But having each one with their own individual AP process is not a good idea. To standardize that process is really a major goal for all organizations. They also want to make this process transparent to the stakeholders. So in other words, at any point in time, they want the stakeholders to be able to understand where a specific invoice is and how the process works, where it is, how it works, and what the result will be. Visibility into the status of these invoices is a key component of an automation solution. If you don't have the visibility of where that invoice is, you're back in a manual world. So what happens here is you need to be able to provide that information when someone internally as well as externally to the company ask about a specific invoice and where it may be in the process. This provides for a faster payment cycle, of course, because not only on-time payments, but early payment discounts are now from suppliers. We have customers who now are receiving all the discounts that their suppliers are providing to them, and they're also now able to say, listen, we're going to pay you early. So if you provide us with a discount, we'll pay you early. Otherwise, we're going to pay you in 30 or 60 days or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And they have been able, by doing that, they've been able to get their suppliers to come on board with even more discounts from all additional suppliers. So this is really a key component here, because that revenue goes right to the bottom line. And the compliance of fraud prevention mechanisms throughout the solution are, of course, very important nowadays, because, especially in a remote world, because you need to be able to keep track of what's going on with the system and how invoices are being processed, so that you reduce the instances of fraud and you're able to comply with your industry compliance requirements at any point in time.
That makes a lot of sense, Pete. And you guys have done quite a few projects with customers in the Oracle ERP space. What are some of the benefits that customers have shared with you that they have found from doing projects?
Yeah, there's a lot of different benefits, but we got a few of them right here on this slide for you. First of all, we enable cost savings. The improvement of on-time payment and early payments of invoices, as I just mentioned, it's a key benefit, because can be a tremendous amount of money when you start thinking about 2% or 3% of your total spend. So improving productivity and moving invoices through a faster process so that they don't get hung up and you end up with penalties of paying late, and reducing the manual tasks and the limited reliance on paper is another major benefit of an automated solution. No longer is anybody manually typing into their system the data from a specific invoice, or typing in the information for a specific voucher into the JD Edwards system. And the performance visibility with transparent invoices, approvals, and payments allows you to manage the compliance with your industry compliance requirements, as well as reducing any of your fraud risks. And as a result of that, it improves your supplier relations, of course. If you're paying your invoices earlier and you're able to give information back to your suppliers quicker, then you're going to have a happier relationship with your suppliers. And of course, standardizing that financial process. It's easy to control and adapt to work from home situations when it's an automated process. If it's a manual process, it's very difficult to adapt that to a work at home or remote environment.
Makes a lot of sense. I think we're ready to move to if we have any questions from the crowd. But Pete, I have a question for you before we address any questions that people have entered in. And that is, so far, what you guys have seen over the past year, do you think that customers are telling you the remote workers are here to stay, or is it temporary, or what do you see over the next 3 to 6 months and beyond?
Yeah, we're seeing that it's kind of a mix here. So many organizations are bringing some people in and leaving some people remote, and they're finding that works well. But we're also seeing where employees are wanting to come back to the office. They want that social interaction with their fellow employees in the organization, and they also want to have the ability to exchange information quicker in a face-to-face meeting type of environment. So what we're seeing is there's going to be a mix of remote work. Workers are going to be remote and workers are going to be on site, and I think that mix is here to stay.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
All right,
Certainly.
we did have a few questions come in. Again, if you have a question you would like to ask, please feel free to do so in the Q&A panel. First up, do I have to buy new Canon scanners and printers to use the solution?
No, you don't. First of all, if you have a scanner today, no matter what the brand is, as long as it's 300 DPI, you can utilize that scanner. We do not require anyone to purchase a Canon scanner. We're scanner agnostic.
Okay. And then, the next question is, what are the top benefits your customers have found in using AP automation?
I think, we did cover quite a few of those in this presentation, but the fact of the matter is the real benefits that they're getting is that standardization of the process and the additional revenue that they're getting from suppliers by paying their invoices early and on time. And so those two areas seem to be the biggest benefits that they're achieving, as well as many other associated benefits, of course, the reduction of manual data entry and the like. These are benefits that you're going to receive from an automated solution.
Okay. Next up, how long does a typical installation take?
Good question.
That's a good one to ask, because it really is different for every organization. It depends upon the availability of individuals within the organization that's implementing the solution, as well as certain things like how clean is your master data? Is your supplier master in good shape, or do you have a lot of duplicates and errors in there that need to be cleaned up before you go forward? Also, another thing that we typically our customers are looking at is their workflows. Many of them, they have manual workflows. They may not even be documented. People just know what to do or how to go ahead through the process of getting it reviewed and approved. So getting those written down and into a format that can be set into the system itself so that those workflows are automated is something that also needs to be done prior to the actual implementation. So getting back to how long does it take? It's typically between 3 and 6 months, again, depending on the organization and the complexity of the processes that they have.
Okay. So speaking of complexity, what are some of the biggest problems people find in automating AP?
Yeah, some of those biggest problems, as I mentioned, first of all, the master data in your JD Edwards system needs to be cleaned up if it's not cleaned up already, especially the supplier master, of course. You need to have that information in good shape, understanding that that's going to be changing all the time because suppliers change addresses, etc. But excuse me. But what we also see is this always an internal conflict, if you will, about a new system. I do something now in the following way, and I'm comfortable with that. Now I'm going to have to learn something new. So changing the way I work is always a bit of a problem for some people. And so therefore, taking that into account in your project has to be done so that people feel comfortable going forward and actually see this as a benefit to them, as opposed to something that's going to make their job harder and more difficult going forward.
Okay. One last question that just came in. Can you expand to other areas of the business, like managing contracts or logistics or any other areas?
It's because of our OCR technology, we're able to implement multiple types of data management projects. For instance, we also have a sales order process. So when a purchase order comes in from a customer, we can convert that into a sales order automatically, again, utilizing the OCR technology and the workflow capabilities of the system and our integration with JD Edwards. We also have expense management. And by the way, expense management doesn't just apply to people who are traveling. Expense management also applies to those who are working at home, might have to buy a printer or supplies for their printer or any supplies for their work environment, and therefore have to expense that to the organization. So having an expense management solution that's cloud-based doesn't require anybody to implement anything other than to utilize it from the cloud is a capability that, of course, that we find a lot of companies being interested in moving forward with today. We also have HR processing so that we can, if you have onboarding requirements for your human resource area, again, it's the same kind of situation. You have a paper document or paper documents that need to be put into an electronic format. They may need to be put into a workflow for other individuals in the organization to participate in. and they need to be filed and maintained for that individual on a go-forward basis. So again, any paper documents that need to be put into an electronic format and get rid of that paper, that's exactly what we can do in many different, such as contract management that was mentioned as well. A lot of different areas.
Okay, and one more question. Have customers, and this seems like it could go for both of you, have customers told you about other issues they are having while working remote? Mike, do you want to take that first?
Mike?
Yeah, sure. Because I mean, all of us are exposed to this new world, this new post-COVID remote world. So what are some of the other issues? I know that what we've encountered with some of our customers is in the area of training. When you have a training situation, it's much more difficult to do that in a remote, scattered type setup. I know we've got good collaboration tools out there today, but there's so much to be gained and learned when people are in the same room to collaborate together to share their experiences, and then the water cooler discussions in between sessions is also helpful. So I think training is one of the big areas. Evaluating people and mentoring and bringing along new folks is a lot tougher in a remote world. You want to add anything, Pete?
Yeah, we're seeing situations where organizations are having problems specifically with workflows in managing documents from one individual to another when they're all remote. Maybe a driving force to them automating the process here, but it becomes a real issue to them, and especially when they have paper invoices coming into their office. Who's going to go in and get those paper invoices, scan them or whatever, and send them over to the individuals necessary in order to review and approve? So these are areas that we see where there's a lot of pain, and it continues.
Right.
And that's why people are looking at automating the process.
Okay, that is all the questions that we have for today. I appreciate you guys presenting. We have our next presentation is next week, Wednesday, same time. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with the screens. But we look forward to welcoming you to our next presentation on Wednesday, June 9th for, I thought we were supposed to be paperless by now.
Oh boy, there we go. Thank you, Megan.
Absolutely. You guys
Good
have
chat.
a great rest of your day, and we will see you again next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Megan. Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.